My name is Maytal Kowalski. I'm the Executive Director of JSpaceCanada. It was right around this time 2 years ago that we gathered for a conference in more or less this format for the first time. At that time, we were 6 months removed from the horrific Hamas terror attacks of October 7th, 2023, and 6 months into the devastating war in Gaza, one that has since left hundreds of thousands of Palestinians dead, displaced, homeless, and hungry. That conference also took place the day after the first direct Iranian hits on Israel on April 14th, 2024. Luckily, there's peace now. Doesn't that feel like such a long time ago? But it felt surreal sitting in a room much like this one, attempting to discuss the future of Israel, Palestine, and the broader region while history was unfolding in real time. Our speakers offered thoughtful and rigorous analysis, all while carrying the very human weight of worrying about family and loved ones back home. Last year, closer to home, we convened once again, and it was during the prorogation of Parliament, on the brink of a federal election, amid the resignation of Prime Minister Trudeau and the emergence of a new Liberal leader, now Prime Minister Mark Carney. And now this year, once again, we find ourselves adapting to a rapidly shifting reality. One of our speakers today is unable to join us in person due to the disruptions in flights from Israel. We are mere days into a fragile US-Iran ceasefire. Tell me if something has changed since I watched the news this morning. We are days away from potential Israeli-Lebanese negotiations. Palestinians in Gaza continue to face immense hardship, too often fading from global attention. At the same time, over 7,000 Israelis have been wounded and 24 killed, 40 days into this war of choice with Iran. If it was not already clear before, it must be abundantly clear now. Diplomacy, not war, is the only path that can ensure safety, dignity, and a real future for Israelis, Palestinians, Lebanese, and Iranians alike. This has long been a rallying cry for organizations like ours and for our incredible presenting partners here today, the New Israel Fund of Canada, Canadian Friends of Peace Now, and Meretz Canada. Yeah, indeed. But stating this truth, no matter how correct, is not enough. We must act on it. We must mobilize to prioritize diplomatic solutions over militaristic ones. We must organize to amplify our voices in the public sphere and in political spaces. And we must never forget that this work is rooted in love, not hate, in hope, not fear, and in the unwavering, stubborn belief that giving up is simply not an option. Think for a moment, actually do this. Think for a moment about something in your own life that affects you, anything at all. It could be the speed limits on the street next to your children's school, transit delays, extreme weather, the cost of housing or groceries. Almost every issue that shapes our daily lives traces back in some way to political decisions. And if we want to see those issues improve, the answer is simple. We must participate. That is exactly what JSpaceCanada seeks to do. Almost 2 years ago, I became the first full-time paid executive director of this organization. It was and continues to be a tremendous honor and a responsibility that I carry with deep seriousness. A responsibility to lead and represent Jews just like us in this room. Those who fight for the Israel we believe in because we love Israel. Those who refuse to give up on the vision of a Jewish, secure, and democratic state. Those who understand that our people have endured for thousands of years, not by standing still, but by continuing to fight for our values, for our future, and for one another. It is also a responsibility to bring those voices to Parliament Hill, to engage directly with elected officials, to advocate for policies that reflect our vision, and to demonstrate clearly that the Canadian Jewish community is not a monolith. That there are strong, principled voices calling on Canada to take bold, meaningful action in pursuit of a just and lasting peace, and that we are committed to making that vision a reality. Because as I said before, for anything to improve, political engagement is not optional, it is essential. And for that engagement to be effective, our elected officials must see and understand that we represent a growing, organized, and determined constituency within the Canadian Jewish community. Over the past 2 years, that is exactly what we have been building. In February of 2024, we released a policy paper calling on Canada to recognize a Palestinian state. In November of 2025, along with our Policy Center chair, former Canadian ambassador to Israel, and my BFF, John Allen, I testified before the Foreign Affairs Committee, reinforcing that call. In April 2024, we embarked on sustained advocacy, emailing members of Parliament and asking all of you in this room and many others to sign petitions calling for sanctions on violent Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank, as well as entities and even members of Knesset who support and enable that violence. Since then, we have seen multiple rounds of sanctions from both the previous and current federal governments targeting precisely these actors. At times like these, when the situation feels overwhelming, when progress feels painfully slow, when it feels as though we are David facing Netanyahu and Trump's Goliath, these victories can seem small, incremental, like drops in an ocean, but they matter. Because to borrow from the movie Jojo Rabbit, we are descended from those who wrestle angels and kill giants. That is who we are. It is our inheritance and our obligation to fight for our values even when the odds feel insurmountable, to persist, to push forward, and to refuse always to give up. And we can only do this work with all of you. I'm so excited that today you're going to hear from both Israeli and diaspora Jewish leaders who will speak precisely to why this work matters urgently, deeply, and how we can continue to grow this movement, to strengthen it, and to translate our values into real, tangible change. You'll also see around the room and out into the foyer area some sign-up sheets for the JSpaceCanada regional councils. If you are interested in raising your voice to your member of parliament and advocating for the principles and positions that we advocate for, please add your name and sign up to join a JSpaceCanada Advocacy Regional Council. Before we begin today, I want to extend my deepest thanks to our incredible presenting partners, the New Israel Fund of Canada, Canadian Friends of Peace Now, and Meretz Canada. I want to thank the Canadian Race Relations Foundation for their financial support of this conference. And I want to thank our promotional partners, Amenu Canada, Women Wage Peace Canada, Camp Shomria, Aleph Canada, Hatikva Canada, Kaleidoscope, and J-Link. There are tables set out also in the foyer with information about all of these organizations, and I invite you during breaks to have some conversations with the folks out there. Just a couple of super fun housekeeping notes. The schedule of the day, I think everyone saw posted by the elevator, but just to let folks know, we will be in this room for the next 2 plenary sessions, which will each be 45 minutes. There is no Q&A at the end of those. We will then have a break. There's going to be coffee, tea, and refreshments out in the foyer. We'll then move into the breakout sessions. You're just going to follow this hall all the way to the end and make a left. All the rooms are there, and they have the names beside each room of the breakout session. The questions that you are dying to ask will be asked in those breakout sessions. So there is about a 15-minute Q&A in those sessions. After that, we'll come back into this room. We'll do closing remarks. We'll probably have a little bit of time. I emphasize little bit of time to schmooze and speak to one another. And then we'll call it a day around 5 o'clock. To start us off today, we're going to hear from a parliamentarian who understands the importance of this moment, of this work, and most importantly, of your voices. Though he could not be here in person, as he's traveling for parliamentary business, it is my honor to introduce via video the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Member of Parliament for Don Valley West, and most importantly, a great friend of JSpaceCanada and a close personal friend of mine, Mr. Rob Oliphant.
Dear friends, good afternoon, shalom. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be with you in person today as I'm out of the country on parliamentary business, but I am pleased to be able to contribute virtually to this discussion, very important discussion on the future of peace and democracy in Israel and Palestine. Thank you, Maytal, and your entire team at JSpace for inviting me to join in this very important conversation today. Let me begin, though, by thanking you for the work you do all the time in promoting peace and understanding both in Canada and through your network around the world. These last few years have been even more trying for all of you, and I would say for all of us, than in previous years. Tensions have run high in Canada, both within the Jewish community and towards the Jewish community since the horrendous attack on Israel and Israelis by Hamas terrorists. The rise of anti-Semitism is real and profound. It's a scourge that must be addressed by all of us, particularly people in my role as an MP and simply as a human being. Anti-Semitism, anti-Judaism kills Jews and hurts all of us. And I'm aware that many of you have also had to be courageous in your own community to express your concern and love for Israel and your desire for a long-term and lasting peace in the Middle East. Your expressed desire to further democracy, dignity, civil and human rights in both Israel and Palestine has taken courage, strength, fortitude. I thank you for inspiring me to continue my work day after day as one who loves Israel, but also knows that the security and prosperity of Israel is dependent upon the people of Palestine having an equal opportunity for peace, security, and prosperity. The current situation in the Middle East is deeply personal to many Canadians, and my thoughts are with everyone across the region, as well as their loved ones who've been going through countless conflicts and are affected daily. Canada stands in solidarity with those touched by this conflict. In Israel, where Iranian and Hezbollah strikes have most recently claimed civilian lives, as well as in Palestine, in Lebanon, and in Iran. A human life is a human life, regardless of religion, race, or citizenship. We continue to urge all parties to respect international law and to work for an enduring, long-lasting peace. As the region faces the prospect of continued escalation and prolonged instability, the priority must be on achieving political solutions, always for everyone. At the same time, these broader regional hostilities must not negate our attention from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which itself is at a pivotal historical moment. It's incumbent on us to mobilize in support of peace and democratic renewal in Israel and Palestine, the theme of your gathering today. Israeli and Jewish communities around the world, and those of us who are true allies to the community, continue to reel from the horrors of the October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas, the deadliest attack against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. As I've already noted, this trauma has been compounded by the despicable rise in anti-Semitism globally, including in Canada, in these recent years. The Government of Canada has and will continue to stand with Jewish people and communities to counter the abhorrent rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish hatred. And also, as I have indicated, it's our long-standing conviction that lasting peace and security will only come through the respect of both Israelis and Palestinians' fundamental rights, including the right of self-determination in both states. The two-state solution, with both committed to peaceful coexistence, is and must continue to be the guiding framework of our collective peace-building efforts. But as Prime Minister Carney has stated, the prospect of the two-state solution faces an existential threat. In Gaza, the situation remains dire. Palestinian civilians continue to suffer from a humanitarian crisis while Hamas continues to assert control over the population centers. Canada's position on Hamas is clear. It is a listed terrorist organization and must have no role in Gaza's future governance. The implementation of the now somewhat stalled 20-point peace plan remains the most viable pathway to ending the horrific violence in Gaza. Canada urges all parties to follow commitments under this plan, including allowing large-scale, unrestricted humanitarian aid flows, demilitarizing Gaza, and making sure that Hamas has no role. Canada has committed $400 million in international assistance since the beginning of this conflict and will continue to support not only the humanitarian response, but ongoing rebuilding and reconstruction. I must stress there's no solution to this conflict that doesn't include Palestinian participation. Canada is working with the Palestinian Authority on system reforms, capacity building to promote democratic renewal, transparency, strong institutions. Attempts to undermine the PA through financial restrictions or other means risk creating further instability, which will benefit no one and have the potential to create openings for extremists. Turning to the West Bank, Canada is deeply alarmed about the rapid growth, ongoing growth of settlements and annexation rhetoric. The surge in extremist settler violence is leading to the forced displacement of Palestinians across the West Bank and further destabilizing the region. Canada unequivocally condemns this violence, which ultimately undermines Israel's own security. In the face of these challenges, civil society groups, including organizations like JSpace, have a crucial role to play. An active civil society is a necessary element of democratic governance and peace building. The Canadian government will continue to engage with the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority on peace-building efforts, but these must be complemented by a parallel track of civil society-led mobilization around peace, democratic renewal, human and civil rights. Strong public engagement is needed to bring the region to a sustainable level of peace and reconciliation. Collective advocacy, educational campaigns, and community gatherings all have the potential to strengthen public opinion in support of democracy and of human rights in Israel and in Palestine. Your voices continue to shape decisions of public officials. Your advocacy brings awareness, brings nuanced perspective, and personal stories to the political dialogue in Ottawa. We need your voice. JSpace is a strong voice fighting for peace and democracy in Israel and respect in Canada. This can only be achieved by engaging in important, very difficult, often challenging conversations about the Israel-Palestine conflict. So I can encourage all of you, keep having these conversations with empathy. Seek to broaden your understanding of all the perspectives that will allow us to build a more peaceful future. We do this work together. I want to extend again my sincere thanks to join with you in this timely conference for creating the space for dialogue to continue the important role of civil society in Canada and in Israel and Palestine to ensure that together we build lasting, sustainable peace and opportunity for all people in the Middle East. Thank you. Shalom.